Welcome to episode 72 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
So before we get into our review of Beauty and the Beast, this is a word from our sponsor, which is essentially you guys, you listeners out there. We are on Patreon, and Patreon is a really good website for artists such as us to get sponsors, and you guys could be part of the Chew Crew if you donate any kind of monies, if you will, from anywhere from $1 all the way up to I think I don't know, it just goes up and up. And every tier you get some sort of reward from us, which is super cool. So you get like bonus pods. There's like T-shirts, I think hats. There's also I think a tier where you can actually drive the conversation, be on our podcast. So that's really really cool. So yeah, we're on Patreon. That's patreon.com/chew on this podcast. What else we got?
All right. Well, speaking of sponsors, since we don't have any, we decided to, since I'm from the East Coast, we decided we were going to mention this convenience store called Wawa that's on the East Coast until they come out here to California.
I love Wawa.
So you being from California, BJ, the first time you went out there, you actually had real pizza, and you also had White Castle, but you also did this other thing that you didn't know about, which was called Wawa.
Yes.
Basically, it's like a 7-Eleven, but they have their own like deli in there where you can get like all this other all this food late at night. They're open 24/7, which is freaking awesome. So when you're bar hopping and all that stuff or whatever, you can always count on Wawa to go get like one of their great hoagie sandwiches. So anyway, the whole reason for doing this is like we don't have a sponsor, and we're like, well, let's just talk about one thing that we love. And I was like, yeah, there's no Wawa out here, so we're going to talk about it. And what was the hashtag we were going to use? West Coast hashtag West Coast Wawa. We're going to tag all of our episodes from now on, and maybe Wawa will notice. And if at best, maybe we get a free sub.
Yeah. That they can just mail to us.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very, just hopefully they just come over here. That's all I care about. It's a really
if they come
cool
over
place.
here, just give me like a gift card so I can just get sandwiches there or gas.
With gas.
Yeah, because they have gas stations too.
Exactly.
The bigger Wawas have gas stations. Okay, so that's our sponsor. That's our sponsor. So every episode now, you're going to hear our sponsor.
That's our
Wawa.
fake sponsor.
No, sorry, our fake sponsor. We're not sponsoring them. We're just going to keep mentioning them. They're not our sponsor.
Yeah.
We just want to keep mentioning them to come out to California. Once again, that's hashtag West Coast Wawa.
Yes.
And before we start with the review of Beauty and the Beast, there's one more thing I want to mention. One of our good friends of the podcast, had some really awesome news this week. She got the cover for she illustrated the cover for The Dragon Lord's False Idols from Orbit's Books, I think it's called. The publisher.
I think so.
And John Hollins is the author of the book. This is available basically everywhere. We actually met Crystal at Celebration, and she has some amazing artwork. She did like this awesome Darth Maul.
Yes.
So we just kept in touch ever since then. And she's very talented. She's an artist. Obviously, you got to check out this book cover. It's really cool. It's a giant dragon. How could you not like dragons?
Yeah, it's super sick. And I actually bought that Darth Maul illustration that she created. I think we met her in a forum, on the Star Wars forum on Facebook.
Probably like an Anaheim Celebration or something like that.
Yeah, and then bumped into her there. I just noticed her. Oh, we met them at a get together or something that first night, and then saw her consequently, walking around the floor, and she had the Darth Maul illustrations, and I'm like, I want one. That looks pretty cool. So it's actually hanging. It's framed in my bedroom actually. So.
Yeah, she is an artist to hire. She has a website, so let me plug some of her stuff here.
Yes.
Let's see. Her website is crystalsully.com, and her email is digitally.untamed@gmail.com. Once again, that's digitally untamed, all one word, @gmail.com. She's done other stuff like Elder Scrolls, the Dragon Age RPG. So she's definitely pretty good at what she does. So
Yeah,
hire her.
she's got the nerd
She
cred, that's for sure.
and she would have done our logo, but we wanted stick figures, and she just refused to sink that low.
Oh,
So we
but
couldn't
yeah, but
hire
I
her.
still want like a really cool dragon with our stick figures with our weapons, like just riding the dragon. That'd be pretty
Riding the dragon.
badass.
Well,
Yeah.
you get shotgun, I take lead.
I'm like holding you with one arm and my chainsaw on the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
That's horrible. It
And then we're
reminds me of like was that in the Harold and Kumar with like was it Neil Patrick Harris like riding the unicorn or something
something
like
like
that?
that, something weird.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah,
uh,
if you're listening, Crystal, we want a dragon with our stick figures riding on it.
Stick
That'd be
figures on
awesome.
it. If that'd be, yeah. Stop what you're doing and do
It's
that instead.
yeah, forget the paid gigs. Do this
Yeah.
for nothing, please.
Yes. So go hire her. She's published. She's at a con actually, I think right now as we're recording this.
She
So
did.
check out
She
her
was at
stuff.
yes. She did the Emerald City Con recently from which is a big one in Seattle, and I think she's doing another one this weekend. And hopefully one day we'll see her at Celebration doing artwork. That'd be pretty sick.
I already called Shotgun the first ticket to whenever she gets hired to do Star Wars. I get
Oh
to
my
go on set,
god.
or I get to be in a production meeting.
And like you're like I came up with Darth Maul. No.
Yeah. So okay, so let's
Okay.
head over to now Beauty and the Beast. This is our review of Beauty and the Beast. Spoilers. Shut it off. Come back after you've watched the movie. So let's
Yes.
go through the initial reactions. You want to go, or you want me to go?
No, I can go. I think you went for. It doesn't matter. It's whatever, whichever. Okay, so I virtually stayed away from all the reviews. I did see the RT review earlier in the week, and it was very low, and that was very disconcerting. But I kind of took it as like, well, this is it's essentially looked like a shot for shot remake on the trailer. So I thought maybe, well, people are rating it low because it's not bringing anything new to the table. It's just a kind of recreation or whatever. And then, and then there was that whole, controversy, which we'll get into that much later. Which, when I watched the movie, I didn't think it was controversial at all. I think people are just ridiculous. So my initial reaction is this: I thought it was okay. I was uh, I was a little entertained. I did have quite a bit of issue with this movie, and I think and that's something we can go into later on if you can remind me. But when they're doing all these live action remakes, which I've heard they're trying to pretty much remake everything that they've ever done into live action now at this point.
Right.
So I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But my initial reaction was I just thought it was okay. I didn't really think they brought anything new to the table. It was I thought some of it looked beautiful. I thought some of the musical numbers hit, and I thought some absolutely did not. Um, I thought some of the CG work was really shoddy. Um, I just don't know. There was something about it that wasn't quite right to me. I just can't put my finger on it. Like everybody's going to this thing for nostalgic reasons, but that's not. I mean, I guess it's an okay reason to go watch it. I wanted to go watch it because it was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. I mean, and I was an adult when it came out. Like, not quite an adult, maybe like 19 or 20, but still, it was like that was the thing to do. Every year was like a Disney movie event at that point, with Aladdin and Little Mermaid and all that stuff. And so for me, it was like, oh, I've actually really want to see this because I just remember it so well, and it'd be really cool to see all the characters come to life, and so that was my whole reason behind seeing it, and then actually watching the trailer kind of got me a little more jazzed to watch it. But then, with that RT rating, kind of bummed me out a little bit, and then watching it, I was a little bummed walking out of there. Like, to be honest with you, I wasn't like there wasn't anything that stuck out where I was like, oh my god, that was amazing, or oh, I got to talk about this. It was just okay, So, and we'll get into our ratings on stuff later. So, what were your initial reaction?
So initially, I I was pretty pleased. I was probably more pleased with the movie. I was much higher on it than the Rotten Tomatoes rating.
Okay.
We'll talk about that at the end, but I was much higher on it than that. I was actually I was pretty pleased with the movie because I loved all. It felt like the screenwriters for this movie downloaded like or caught Honest Trailers video of Beauty and the Beast and went back and be like, okay, well, those are all the issues with the original. Let's plug those holes in there. Like,
Mhm.
so the story with the mother, the more explained version of why this prince was cursed, because in the cartoon, all it says is that he turned away like a dirty looking old hag on a really creepy night, and like and then that like gave him like a lifetime of misery, which
Mhm.
because it didn't make any sense. Like, are you going to let some like old woman in, in a stormy rainy night when you're only 9 years old? That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Right.
So they explain it a lot more that like he had no will to love and was selfish and all that shit, and like so it really felt like that to me. When I walked out of there, I was like, it's like they got a second crack at the movie and watched an Honest Trailers clip of their own movie and
Okay.
said, let's plug all these holes. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I loved all those extra scenes that explained all the plot holes in the cartoon. I really enjoyed them.
Hmm.
What took me out of the scene was every time they did a new scene, they did a new song. And the new songs hit so bad for me. I did not
Mhm.
like a single one of them. And it's not because of how great the songs are from the original, because I actually didn't realize how great they were until they were actually playing in this movie again, because I haven't really sat down and paid attention to this movie in a really long time. And I was like, wow, this music's amazing. And then I was like, oh, here comes a new song. There was like no hooks for me at all.
Mhm.
Nothing hit right at all. And there was the one scene where one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie was when you find out about what actually happened to Belle's mother, and then the second they show up in that area, that house or whatever, she starts singing, and the song is terrible. Like there's nothing great about that
No.
song, and I'm like, oh,
No.
you just took me out of this like emotional moment of something that I never knew before, and ruined it for me. Like, instead
Mhm.
of letting the new scenes just be themselves, adding a musical number like took me out of it completely, because I thought it was I'm okay with them coming up with new songs for the live action, because it's kind of need it, right?
Mhm.
For something new. But I think it does a disservice to those scenes that answer a lot of questions for you about,
Mhm.
the plot holes in Beauty and the Beast. And the songs were just terrible. So, you know, uh, other than that, like, I loved Ewan McGregor in this movie. Absolutely loved him in this movie. Um, he had a much bigger role than Lemire did
Mhm.
in the cartoon, I think.
Mhm.
Emma Watson was great in it. I thought she was wonderful. I even enjoyed the Beast, although there was a few times where I'm like, wow, that's really bad CG.
Mhm.
Like, it felt like Dax. What was his name? Dax, the guy who owned the diner. Jax, who owned the diner
Oh,
in episode two.
yes, from yeah,
Like how faked like his clothing looked and all that stuff. That there
when
was
he
a
was
couple scenes like
movements.
that here.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was a couple scenes, and it happened when he was actually in the famous blue suit. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, that sucks. That sucks really bad. And then there's other shots where he looks great. And I again I saw this on IMAX, so you can't hide bad CG like
No.
there.
No.
It's like 12 feet high. So yeah, that was my initial reactions.
Yeah, some of the stuff you said I totally agree with. I liked I did like Ewan McGregor. It took me a little bit to get used to the accent. I finally just kind of gave up and just went with it because it.
Oh, that's the other thing that I noticed that was weird. It was okay for a cartoon. It didn't bother me as a cartoon because you kind of just let goofiness go with a cartoon. Because even though
Mhm.
it's like a serious movie, you kind of just go with the goofiness, right? What The other thing that took me out of this movie is that everybody has a French name,
Mhm.
and but everyone other than Lemire has a British accent,
Right.
and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
And they let Emma Watson pretty much keep her British accent. It
Yeah.
just wasn't real thick, but it was there. And then her dad is played by Kevin Kline, who didn't have a British accent at all.
Well, halfway
And
through the movie, he did.
um,
He pulled a Kevin Costner in Robin Hood.
yeah, and then there was some really weird stuff that happened. Like, so everyone knows this story. I mean, they did change certain things, like, but he's on the horse and he's running away, and then like, or no, he's not running away, but he's just kind of riding the horse, and this lightning bolt hits this tree, and the tree falls over, so he has nowhere to go but down this one path. But then later on, when he brings Gaston back there to say, "Hey, Belle is holed up at this castle," they get to that point, and he's like, "Hey, that tree was supposed to be down. Like, it's not down anymore. That's weird." Was
Oh,
there
you
some
just
sort of
remind me of something else. That you
was
just
there some
reminded me of something
so
else.
was there something magical that like put the
Yeah,
tree back? I don't understand that.
I
That
think
didn't
it was
make
the
any
good.
sense.
I think it was the. Personally, I think it was the witch from the beginning of the movie. After,
Was she
um,
rooting? She was actually rooting for the prince to like
yeah,
fall in
because
love with
remember,
some
like
girl.
yeah, so she showed up a few times in it, playing that homeless person.
Oh yeah,
So she was kind of like driving the whole thing a little bit from behind the scenes, which is kind
I
of
just thought that
weird
was
take on
weird.
it.
Yeah, I didn't think that was necessary with the tree and all that. I don't. I
Oh, that
mean,
was the other thing. The Wait, before I forget. So one of the other things is like, how the fuck does this entire village not know this castle is like there from the
right?
cartoon version? I'm meaning, and they
Oh,
fixed that in
they
this,
explained that. Yeah, they did explain that in this, which I
which
like
was
because I
pretty cool. I was like, oh,
yeah.
cool.
Basically, the spell covered the kingdom and said like everyone forgot about you because one of the guys that lived in the town, his wife worked at the castle, so like he had forgotten about
Ended up being
Mrs.
Mrs.
Potts.
Potts. That was a nice.
Yeah,
That was a nice little background for Mrs.
that was a
Potts.
nice little background. Um, yeah, I mean they took some liberties, and some of the things I thought was really cool, and other things I thought was a weird, like the additional songs, especially like with Beast at the end when Belle
When
decides
she's
to take
leaving.
off. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that was
was
a
a
missed
really
opportunity there.
awkward.
I,
It was an awkward
I
song.
thought, yeah, I thought the choreography of that scene with the beast like running up higher and higher and higher to get a better view. I thought that was a great addition to it. I was like, one unlike other sections of the movie, when something new happened, I thought this was the perfect placement for a song. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, cool, Beast is going to get his own song because Belle's had her own. Like Belle had that great opening one. I was like, oh, cool, they're going to give Beast one, and it fucking failed miserably. Like it
Yeah,
was not a good song.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. I was not. I don't know the music for whatever reason the songs didn't translate to the screen for me, other than like there are three major songs that I felt definitely had to be in there, and everything else could have just went away. Like I felt like the Gaston song made sense for that to be there. It made sense for the Be Our Guest song. And then it made sense for the Beauty and the Beast song when they're dancing. Everything
Hmm.
else, to
What about the
me,
opening sequence for
I
Belle?
didn't like it. I didn't like it at
No.
all. It didn't translate well because I'm like, in a cartoon, it makes sense for everyone to be singing and doing their thing. But number one, whenever Emma Watson sang, it was pre-recorded. Almost everybody else, I noticed when they sang, it looked like they were really singing it. Like like they just recorded it while they were singing it on the stage. But hers looked like definitely pre-recorded. It definitely looked like she was lip syncing. It didn't match up. It sounded like studio singing and not singing on the set.
Mm.
That makes any sense. So it kind of took
Yeah,
me out of
because
the
they never
movie.
sing live on the set.
No, they
It's
never
always
do.
pre-recorded.
But for whatever reason, every time she sang, it's like that does just not matching up for some reason. It
I
doesn't
didn't get.
doesn't
I
look
didn't really
right.
get that.
Um,
I
so
didn't get that. I thought.
but that whole opening sequence, I just didn't think it was necessary. It didn't feel like it translated well to me at all.
I thought
Oh,
it did. I thought it was pretty impressive how they did that
and
scene.
then the other thing that kind of bugged me about Belle is that at least in the cartoon, I think the father was the inventor, and in this one, they kind of hint that she's like super smart too, but they only do it the one time when she's like doing the laundry with the barrel and the donkey's like pulling it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. But then nowhere in the rest of the movie, she can't even get out of the jail cell by herself. She has
Yeah,
like
that was
someone
a
else
good.
gets.
Yeah, that's a
So
good pull. I completely
um,
agree with that.
so there's that, and again, that's little nitpicky stuff, but it
No,
was
you're
very
right though. Like, what was the point of
noticeable.
like when she did the barrel thing with the laundry? I was like, oh, cool. I wonder when they're gonna call back to that or the fact that she can invent shit. And I thought in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if she's gonna invent a way to defend the castle along with all the
Yes, that would have been
all
interesting.
the but there was no way for her to beat the mob there, but without them seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that was disappointing, showing like an added strength that you wanted to like change from the original cartoon, but then
Mm-hmm.
you never touch on it again.
Yeah, like never again. The
But
other
the only
thing
thing they
that
do actually, you know what was annoyingly too about that because
hmm
because of the inventing and all that shit, everybody thinks she's odd or whatever. She must have called herself odd or peculiar to like so many other people throughout the entire movie. It's almost like she had like mustard on her shirt from like lunch, and then you come back to the office, and
right
instead of somebody else pointing it out first, you pointed out that you have mustard on your shirt so
to
that they don't
everybody
point
in
it out to you.
everybody in the office. Yeah, like
Right.
one
And that's what
after
it felt
another.
like. She just kept saying it over and over again. Like, yes, we get it. You're quirky. Shut the fuck up. Don't tell me again you're quirky. You telling me you're quirky is not really quirky. That's really just annoying.
Yeah, that little library in her town really sucks balls, man. Like they didn't have shit in that place. I was like, it looked like a closet. I'm like, that doesn't look like the
I think that was
library
a
in the.
I thought that was a church.
Maybe a church. Like it just looked. I was like, where's the books? Like that's weird.
So there was a couple of scenes that stood out to me when since you're mentioning books. I was like, all right, the library scene is cool. It looked realistic. I
Mm-hmm.
loved that. I really did like Beauty and the Beast song, the live version that they did,
Mm-hmm.
minus the bad CG a few times, and
Yeah.
they had to pick that scene to fucking do bad CG. Um,
It's the most iconic scene too.
yeah, I really liked the ending touch on Belle's costume, and then you finally get the reveal, and you're like, oh, like I know what it's supposed to look like. I've seen it, but it's still like kind of in the moment. It kind of took me away, like blew me away too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
those scenes were pretty well done, and I disagree with your intro part, the intro of the movie part, because
Mm-hmm.
I thought that worked. I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be better than I thought just based on that, because that was a big production to do. That must have took them weeks to finish that
Mm-hmm.
sequence. Um, I thought that opening sequence was really impressive. Um,
What did you
I
think?
guess
What did you think about them getting? Did you think like okay, so the cast members, like, do you think that everyone was pretty much spot on who they cast to be? Because for me, it was like this movie. You could pretty much cast who you want to be in those roles because nobody, except for maybe Angela Lansbury, is iconic. Like the iconic voice
yeah,
actors.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
So who do you think the cast that they got was pretty solid?
I think so. I mean, like I was pretty impressed with Emma Watson in this, because she had you'd watch her acting chops get better and better throughout the Harry
Hmm
Potter movies. I mean, you go back there, like they're kid actors, and some of them are kind of a little part of that is cringeworthy. So I was not once taken out of this movie by her. I thought she
hmm
was like really charming. I think they picked the perfect Belle.
Yes.
She's beautiful, but like she has a very kind, like innocent eyes almost, and that's Belle. But she can also be. You've seen her be like pissed off Hermione at the same time. So she has those two sides of her. So I thought Belle was perfectly cast.
Yeah, me too.
Um, I thought the prince as the beast was better than as the prince. If that
Mm.
makes any sense.
Hmm
I thought he was a better beast than he was a prince.
Yeah, I agree. I
Again, I
agree.
said, I, uh, I'm sure they could have got somebody maybe a little bit better, but I love Ewan McGregor so much, and he was really good in this. I thought. Weird that they got a Scottish guy to do a French accent though.
Yeah,
Um,
it was a little weird.
Let me see. Mrs. Potts was not Angela Lansbury, but Emma,
It's Emma Thompson, I think.
yeah, Emma Thompson, who was also in Harry Potter. She did a great job as Mrs. Potts. Chip was okay. Cogsworth was Ian McKellen.
Yes.
Um, I thought he was okay. So at some points, like when he was speaking, it was hard to hear him because he's getting like really
He
old.
sounded like Gandalf a few times. He
Yeah.
really did. He really did.
I think am I missing anybody? Kevin
Yeah,
Kline, love Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline was
Gaston was
great.
awesome,
Luke
and
Evans
LaFouf
was
was
Gaston,
good.
and then
He
Josh
was.
Gad was LeFaux.
I thought he was really good too. Luke Evans.
He looked the part,
Uh,
man.
yeah, he looked the part, but he brought something different to the role too, which I think was
They
awesome.
did they did something different with him. They made him like a military man who kind of had like PTSD a little bit, and he was like, I mean, yeah, and
Yeah,
he was like just got angry like real quick, and I don't know, like the Gaston in the cartoon was a little different. He just wanted Belle so bad that he would just do anything, and then this guy kind of had that too, but he also had that he was super cocky. He reminded me of like Biff in Back to the Future or something.
mm,
Um, but then you got LeFaux. Josh Gad was the voice of the in Frozen. He was the voice of the snowman. What the hell's the snowman's name? I can't remember. You've seen that movie like 1,000 times, huh?
Olaf.
Olaf. Okay, Olaf. Yeah, he was the voice of Olaf. He's a really funny guy, and
Yeah,
he
he
brought
was great in
something.
this.
He brought something totally, not different, but he like upgraded LeFaux into like more of a.
Yeah,
He had more to do and stuff like that, and that.
yeah.
So
I thought he was great in that too. Like he was perfectly cast. He brought something that, yeah, like you said, was not in the cartoons at all, and gave him like a little bit more depth. And they actually like turned him around in this one too,
yes.
which was pretty
So
cool.
yeah, we
I
could
thought.
talk. Well, we could talk about the controversy now with LeFaux. Uh,
It's such a not a fucking controversy. It's
it's
so fucking
not.
stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Goddamn fucking homophobic people. Seriously. It's
Yeah,
2017.
yeah, and you have. I mean, we talked about this before, but hello, Ian McKellen is. He's a he's a
Yeah.
gay man, and we've known that for years. And I'm like, why isn't anyone getting upset? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense to like be
And
upset about that kind
one
of
of the
stuff.
fun probably for me the funniest scene in the entire movie was in the original. The wardrobe sucks in one of the people raiding the building, the castle, and dresses up as a woman, and he like freaks out. In this one, they do there's those three reoccurring guys, those three reoccurring like bullies or whatever,
Yeah,
and all three of them get dressed up as women. Two of them freak out. One of them smiles, which I thought was the funniest part in the entire
I
movie.
thought it was genius. He's like, oh, look at me, I look pretty.
Yeah, it was awesome. So then I think, is the end person
Yes,
at the final ballroom dance during the ending scenes, where he and LeFaux, is it LeFaux or LeFouf?
it's LeFaux.
Okay, LeFaux, like end up dancing together, and they dance together for like 1 second, and you don't see them again
Yeah, it's a
together.
split second, and people are up like in
So
uproar about
it's
that.
so fucking dumb. When one of the scenes is one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie, and the other scene is 1 second long, that's what you're gonna boycott. Jesus
Well,
Christ.
yeah, I applaud Disney for several reasons. One, they just said, you know what, we're going to do this. Like that's the way they went, and it was great. The second thing is they're sticking to their guns. They're not changing shit. They're not going to cut that out just to accommodate, some back ass word, back act whatever, bass ackwards. That's what I was trying to say. State, or town or whatever that's doing that. I think even Russia's like the whole country's like banning the movie because of that. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't tell me that there's no gay people in Alabama. There's no gay people in Russia. I'm like you're dumb, and you're bass backwards yourself. I mean, get with the times. Give me a
It's ass
break.
backwards, dude. It's
Is it
ass
ass
backwards.
backwards? What do I keep
Yeah.
saying? Bass backwards? It doesn't matter.
You're
I
saying it
think
you're saying ass backwards, ass backwards.
I'm saying it inside out.
No,
Anyway,
you're fucking saying it ass
I
backwards.
know, I know. I think everyone understands what I'm saying. But you can't. I like the forward thinking on this, and I like
Look, he
that.
was here's the thing. LaFoe was probably already gay. Go back and watch the cartoon version. He's pretty much hard up on fucking Gaston.
No one gives it like
And
Gaston.
maybe Gaston, I mean sorry, maybe LaFoe probably danced with a man in the end of that movie, in the end of the cartoon, but because they had to reuse animation from Cinderella, you never got that scene, and now you're getting the dancing gay scene.
Yeah,
So deal
the
with it.
dancing gay scene. Yeah, it is so ridiculous, man. I thought it. I mean, those scenes actually added to the movie, and
Yeah,
it made
but again, like,
that character who was a
yeah,
nobody before. Now it made him more well
yeah,
rounded. Yeah,
the extra note that they give to his character in the movie works for me. And
yeah,
like I said, if go watch the cartoon again. If you're telling me that he's not in the closet gay for Gaston in the cartoon, then you're blind. So
yeah.
they just didn't come out and say it. It's
It,
like if they said like see if it's like if they said like C-3PO was gay. You're like, okay, and
so like, so yeah, that whole gay controversy thing was really stupid, but. And there was like some other things. I mean, totally a different subject, but one of the things that kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, but you kind of liked the scene, was the scene with in the library with the book, that like magical book that can like transport you, like
anywhere you wanted to go.
yeah, anywhere you wanted to go. And I was like, well, wait a minute, is this like a pensive? Can you like go back to like, yeah, I'm like, can you go back to memories or something like that? Is that what it is? Because I thought, or I kind of like suspended disbelief just a little bit because I thought she was going there on her own. But the next thing you know, Beast is standing next to her and they're both walking around this little shack. And I was like, wait a minute, like this is like really far fetched. Even though, of course, he's a
It
beast,
wasn't in the
and that's far
future. It
fetched.
wasn't in the future or back. It was
No,
in
it was just
present
kind of
time.
they just yeah, it was present time, but all the stuff was there from when her mom died like 25 years prior. So I was really
Yeah, because
confused.
she had the fucking plague, and that's why nobody touched that shit.
Yeah, let's just leave this room. Let's just leave this room alone. We'll never touch
Yeah,
it again. Yeah. So I mean, part of that scene was very touching. I think that the singing of the song kind of took me out of it as well. I think they could have done that scene a little differently, but it is what it is. It was one of those added things that I kind of perked up when I saw something new, but I wasn't
yeah.
like, but I at the same time, after the scene, I was like, well, was that really necessary? Like, I don't know.
That whole new scene stood out to me as not needing a musical number. And if you were going
Yeah,
to do a musical number, it had to be perfect. So like
right, right,
I was
exactly.
really into that entire whole scene, and but the music took me out of it.
Yeah, and that was a bum deal because there was. I mean, they again, they did a lot of really cool shots, shot for shots from the cartoon that I thought looked really great. On the big screen. You on IMAX, asshole. It looked I mean, a lot of the movie just looked fantastic. There was a lot of production value. I think this
Yeah.
movie was like 160 million bucks. I think it cost. Just to throw
Like
out some numbers,
really?
they might, yeah, they actually might hit that this weekend. They were saying that they might hit that or get pretty close to it, which I wouldn't doubt. This movie's going to make $1 billion. It's ridiculous, the amount of hype that's on this movie. But um, so it sounded like you borderline love this movie. I'm more of the I liked it, but it's kind of forgettable for me. Like I don't know, it's not one of those things where I'm going to buy it for Blu-ray and watch it a million times. I might watch it
I think I'll
later
have
on.
it. I think I would get it. I like it enough to actually get it
Yeah, my
when
kids
it
are like
comes out.
kind of they're all boys and grown up. They don't care too much about Beauty and the Beast. In fact, they all sat next to me last night, going like, when can we go home? They're like, it's almost like Back to the Future too. When he goes, there's that gunslinger machine. He's like, oh, dude, I used to love this game, and the kids are like,
Oh
you gotta
right.
you gotta use your hands. That's a baby's toy. Well, it's the same thing. Like when they're watching the movie, they're fucking singing. Like, what the hell is that all about? You know? And I told him, I'm like, back in the 80s and 90s, like this was it, man. You'd watch a cartoon and they'd sing in it, and then Disney changed a little bit, like with Tarzan, because you actually had Phil Collins singing the songs a few times, and
Right.
then Sting singing in Emperor's New Groove or something like that. So this was kind of harkened back to that. Um, so the other thing I wanted to talk about really quick was I think at the beginning I was talking about how Disney's going back and remaking all these things, and we've said that a million times. But for me, I think the big difference here is that when they did Maleficent, which was different. It was the perspective of the evil queen and her tragic background. They did Cinderella, and they kind of messed with that a little bit. Kind of made that movie a little boring, but they did kind of change things around. Jungle Book, what they just cut out all the music in it, the singing, and made it like a straight up, kind of, a straight up story without the singing. And I think they sing a little bit, but it kind of makes sense to that scene. And then this movie, I think, is the first one, isn't it, where they're literally just they sing all the songs from the cartoon, and then they added like two or three new ones. And I think for me, like, I do like the singing aspect of things. I just think this particular movie, I don't know why, like, I know you said you like some of the other songs, but like, I thought the three songs, the major ones, the staples, I thought no matter what, they have to do it. And it kind of makes sense in the story. Because, like, the first song is just she's singing, but all the other people are singing too, and she doesn't notice it. And they don't notice she's singing. You know what I mean? But the three major songs, they notice that they're singing because it's meant to be that way. Like "Be Our Guest" is Luminaire, like
Right.
singing the bell, going, "Hey, be our guest here," and then like "Beauty and the Beast," she's singing and they're dancing. Although I don't even think they're really singing her song. I think they're just kind of dancing because she's saying "Beauty and the Beast," and they're not like turning to her going, "Shut up, bitch! I'm not a beast. I'm a prince." Um,
Right.
and and then um, and then the Gaston song totally makes sense because it's just this really cool, like, rousing song in a bar, and everyone's getting into it, and it's kind of
You
believable
didn't think
that way.
what about the song something there that wasn't there before? I don't think that's the title, but
Um,
you didn't like that one either?
no, actually, I did kind of like that one too. Um,
Cuz that was from both of them singing and it made
yes,
sense because of what was going on.
that was Mrs. Potts, and who else was singing that? The
Bell.
wardrobe, or Belle? Belle was singing it too. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because she's saying like she's noticing something about Beast that she never did. That was another thing I liked about this movie that like you know, in the cartoon I think she falls in love with him or starts to fall in love with him after she gets a fucking giant library. The shit is that about? Right? So in this one, they expand on their relationship and it's longer and you see more of a rapport,
hmm
you know? So like I liked that. It makes it more believable if you're gonna translate it to live action. You're gonna make me believe that this girl actually loves this beast. Give her a library and all of a
I
sudden she
did.
goes like
I
bestiality.
I really I really did like that aspect of it too. I did like that they fleshed out their relationship more, and they spent more time with them talking and hanging out and all that stuff. And I loved that they did take the snowball fight scene from the cartoon, and but it was like
Oh, that was
way
awesome too.
funnier. Oh my god, that
Yeah,
got the biggest
great.
laugh. Yeah, it was hysterical. Um, so yeah, I mean, the, like I said, I didn't hate this movie, and I didn't dislike it. I just did.
It's a pretty charming movie. If you
It's
never
a
saw the
chart.
cartoon, you never
Oh,
saw the
absolutely.
cartoon. Well,
Then you have to go watch this movie. There's no question. But it's just for me, it's like when I look at something like Jungle Book, and I'm like, holy shit! They took a
they
cartoon
improved
I
on
gave
it.
less than two shits about. They expanded upon it. They made it the way they made it. They made it like
Yeah,
I
that
just
makes
love that.
sense. But the Jungle Book was a really short cartoon, really short, and
Yeah.
Jungle Book is not even in the top 10 of Disney cartoons. Like
No.
Beauty and the Beast is like in the top 3.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like Lion
it's
King is probably number 1, which they're
yes.
remaking that, and I don't know how they're going to improve on that movie.
I'm worried about it.
Um,
I'll be honest. I mean, if they do a ton of musical numbers, I worry about it. Aladdin, I feel like because of the genie, I feel like some of the musical numbers make sense. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at it differently. I don't know. I shouldn't look at it from a make sense point of view. It's just I think when they make things live action, I think I have to trick my brain into like, okay, they're gonna break into song. That's just gonna happen because that's the way the cartoon was. I mean, I I don't know if you ever saw this. I'm having these like remembering this skit from Saturday Night Live where the people are hanging out and there's the one guy that's hanging out there and everyone else keeps breaking into song and he's like, what's going on here, why is everyone singing? I just fucking love that. It's hysterical. Like they're all talking, all of a sudden they're like snapping their fingers and singing and he's like, what's going on, why are you doing that?
So you're
Yeah.
not a big live action musical person then? Like you're
I
not
well I
you
I
don't like
am
The
I
Sound of
am
Music or West
Oh
Side
no,
Story?
I love that, and I love La La Land, and I loved, but those are movies that are not, they weren't cartoons before, and I just feel like from the cartoon to live action, sometimes, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm watching this movie, I'm like, ah man, that I don't, you know, I think it's because like after watching Jungle Book, I was like, oh, I really like this because they're not running around breaking into song, and
Mm.
then when they did it in this one, well, the problem is that this movie has such iconic music. Every single song from the cartoon is iconic, one more than the other.
Oh, did you pick up that Celine Dion actually sang the last song of the movie? Like she sang over
What?
the credits? That was
Oh,
Celine Dion.
I really didn't notice that because I'll be honest with you, the kids were like all tired, and so we just got up and left. But as we were walking
Oh,
out,
okay.
I looked back and I would see like the character of the person and then who they played.
Right.
I
But
saw a little bit of
that
that,
was
but
Celine Dion singing that song.
oh,
I was like,
rad.
"Oh, cool. That's a nice callback because like, of course Celine Dion sang Beauty and the Beast in the
Yep.
original version of the ending song, and now they brought her back for a new song, which I didn't care for as much. It's probably the best song of like all the new songs, honestly. I thought
Yeah,
that
I
was
think so.
probably that was the
Yeah,
best one. And it
yeah,
fit better than any of the other music.
I think you're right.
Like it was a nice song to play over what they were doing, showing the human part of the animated part that they played or whatever.
Yeah. So you want to go
All
over
right, so
some
yeah,
ratings?
let's do let's do diversity.
Okay, I think you're
What do
going
you got?
first this time.
Okay. I will go I'd probably go I'd probably go Jan Brady
Mm-hmm.
plus on this one.
Okay.
The main characters are what they are. Um, so I wasn't really expecting a lot of diversity. I was surprised by how much diversity was actually in this movie. So kudos again to Disney to you know they didn't have to make it that diverse because this was like a small French town,
Mm-hmm.
farm town. So I wasn't expecting a lot of diversity, but they pulled it off. So kudos.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. There was a lot more diversity than I expected, and again, Disney in certain aspects they're knocking it out of the park. In other diversity aspects, they're not, which we're really going to hammer into that on Sunday night or on the next podcast. But the the diversity in this was surprisingly much higher than I expected. So I'm going to go with Jan Brady plus as well. As far as like, so we didn't mention the RT ratings. They're at 71% as of right now as we're recording. I think they were as low as
There were
68.
67 when we went.
Okay, which I totally don't agree with. I think if anything, and this is weird, I know I kind of like beat the shit out of this movie a little bit, but I want to say 80 for me. I thought it was an 80. But as far as like, so my chainsaw rating, it's not going to be 4 out of 5, which would make it an 80, I guess. It's
Right.
gonna be more like 3.5 out of 5 for me.
I think I'm right there with you. About 3.5. We've seen some really good movies this month, and I'm like thinking back on some of the other movies. Like I should have gave it a 4
Hmm.
lightsabers out of 5. This one, I think I'm pretty spot on when I'm going to say like 3.5.
Hmm.
Even though it sounded like I liked the movie more than you did, I think the pluses of the movie that we both liked put it in that 3.5, and the stuff that
Hmm.
we didn't like you said, when I asked you, like if you had never seen the cartoon, what would you have thought about this movie? I would have fucking loved it.
Yeah, I
Um,
would have too.
so I think that trying to take your mind out of it and seeing it for from fresh eyes, I can say that my biggest gripes of the movie was because they didn't do that in the original, and they kind of fell short of the new scenes that they did by having to feel like they needed new songs. But
Yeah,
again, because I if I never saw the cartoon, I would have thought it was cool.
yeah.
So
The other thing, and this is just really nitpicky. This should have came out over Christmas. This should have came out during the holidays. It
yeah,
felt kind of,
it's a
it
weird
did feel,
month.
yeah, it did feel kind of strange. Like it reminded me of like when I went and saw Die Hard 2 in June and it was like a fucking snowing in the movie the whole time. I was like, this is weird. And Batman Returns did the same thing. It snowed and the movie came out like in June or July. That always kind of bothers me for some reason. So like this movie was kind of the same thing. I mean, yeah, we're not quite out of winter just yet, but I felt like they could have brought this out like around Thanksgiving, and I think I might have even liked it more because of the seasonal aspect of it, if that makes any sense.
No, it
So,
does. It does.
but that's just a minor nitpick. But okay, so that's cool. Gosh, I don't know what else to really say about this movie. If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you listened to this all the way through, but uh, uh, we're not really.
It's
I
worth
mean,
it. It's worth it. I think
it
it's
is.
worth it
I
taking.
think it's worth it too. It's definitely worth a look, and by everybody going to see this, that'll make Disney want to continue making more of their movies live action. Because in the beginning, I was very skeptical of all of that stuff, but so far, I think they're doing a fairly decent job. There's some movies coming up that they're working on right now that I'm very curious about, that I'm worried about a little bit, but we'll see. I'm right now. I like what they're doing with Mulan. I'm actually really looking forward to that movie because across the board, it looks like they're doing it the right way and being very conscientious of it. Um, but stuff like Aladdin, I mean, how do you replace Robin Williams? Stuff like, Little Mermaid, I guess you could do because I don't remember any of the iconic voices in that. I mean, I think they might
Under
have
the
been
Sea.
that might have been all theater people. You
Under
know
the
what I mean?
Sea and Kiss the Girl.
Yeah, I love Kiss the Girl, and I could see them. Fuck, it's weird. I could see them doing that. I could see all those creatures singing that song. I don't know. I don't know. It's just I just think this was a different animal for
Because the
me. I don't
movie
know.
here's why you're nervous about it, because you're taking it's one thing to take, like, again, like the Jungle Book, right? Or if you wanted to do, I don't know, the Rescuers Down Under, because they're not fucking iconic as Beauty and the Beast, the Lion King.
Yeah,
There was a lot of room for improvement for the Jungle Book. there
yeah, you're
wasn't
right.
there wasn't really much improvement for Beauty and the Beast. The scenes that they added were awesome, but the songs that they added sucked.
Yeah,
Like, it's like they should have stopped at just writing the scene and just leaving it there, because that added more to the film. That was my favorite part of the
yeah. It
live
was
action
it
version of
was
it.
there was no Jenna Malone in the movie. There was no
Yeah.
bullet detective bullet shit. No, it made sense. The stuff that they added actually made sense, and it made the characters a little more well rounded. It made the story make a little more sense versus just saying this is the way it is, and you're going like, well, wait a
Especially the
minute.
falling in love part.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing is that she's fallen in love with that beast, and I think you as an audience member should be too, in a way. You shouldn't. Not bestiality. Not like, oh my god, the beast is hot, but it's like, oh, that dude is like, he's complex. He's a complex character, and you start at the beginning, you're like, this guy's kind of a dick, and then toward the end,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I really like this guy. Like he's changed.
It's
You
like
know?
it's like if they had another crack at, like, Revenge of the Sith, his turn to the dark side would not be like overnight.
Oh my god, tell me about it. Yeah, he's just like, okay, I cut Mace Windu's hand off. Like, all right, I'll do whatever you want. I'll go kill younglings now. That makes no fucking
Yeah.
sense. I'm gonna go kill little children now for you. I'm just like,
Yeah,
that's
that's a big leap from "I want to keep my wife alive" to "I'm gonna kill all the Jedi children."
this one. As many, yeah,
That's a big fucking leap.
yeah. Every
Like,
kid
even
I
if, like,
kill will keep my
li-
wife alive.
li- yeah, like, I'm not sure, like, she'd be okay with this. Like, she might be okay with me trying to learn the dark side in order to save her, but killing the kids with the lightsaber thing, she probably would not be on board and just rather die. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
even just the kids. The kids were the last people he killed in the fucking temple. He killed a
Yep.
shit ton of Jedi before that.
Yeah. That
I'm
whole
pretty sure
that
Padme would have stopped him at that. I mean, like
like why did you do that?
before she even knew that he was gonna go fucking kill children, she would have stopped at like the adults and would be like, yeah, that's not cool, Anakin. Like, you know, I love you too, with my greasy face on the balcony, but I don't think you should be killing all these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And she still wanted to run away with them, which I don't know. That's
Plus, not to
fucked up.
mention that we're in the goddamn future and shit's really got to go bad for me to die. No, they're actually not in the future.
No.
It's a long, long time ago.
And far, far away.
Yeah, but
Which,
everything in that movie looked newer somehow.
well, anyway, it's time for us to go. We'll leave on that note. That really
Yeah,
somber. Yeah. How did we get to Revenge of the Sith and fucking Beauty and the Beast? I have no idea. That's that's ridiculous.
it's talent.
It's all right, man. Well, that was episode 72 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic,
Until next time, folks, chew on that.
later.